Greetings, dear ones. I'm Kryon of Magnetic Service. It's a real time of repose for so many of you, of thinking. You're posed in a place almost like a statue, being very tired of being a statue. And what I mean by that is that we know what's going through the minds of so many now who are listening. We know where the world is at the moment. The world is tired, so there will be a breakout soon, whether it is authorized or not, of those who will come and try to then instill themselves in a life which is back to that which they came from. Perhaps there will be parties that say it's over even when it isn't over, in order to convince themselves that normalcy has returned. That's where you are, and we know this. And the sad part of this, if there is any sad part, is that the ones who should be celebrating with you and pushing this to a fulcrum and getting ready with balloons and all that are continuing to give you fear. They'll do it right to the last moment, and when it's safe, they'll tell you it's not safe. Because that's what they do. Dear ones, this has nothing to do with your government. This has everything to do with bad habits of your media. And that's what it is. It's simply habits of marketing. And I want to tell you some more about the things that are going on. Those of you who can see in the cracks and know, even watching the news, will be aware of the game they play with you. And it is a game. And the game is keep you watching at any cost. I'm going to give you a story. Kind of a cute and funny story. Maybe an allegory, maybe a metaphor, not a parable, just a story. Imagine for a moment, in another time, perhaps another world, that there was a problem with dogs. And they said, this is a problem, you're going to have to tie up your dog. So tie it up now. Don't even let it wander around the house, because the very walking of the dog creates a problem. Tie the dog up so it can't go anywhere. You can feed it, you can pet it, but tie it up. And so all around the world, the dogs are tied up. Carefully, one by one, then thousands, then millions. And the dogs everywhere on the planet are tied firmly, as requested. And then on the news comes a proclamation, an astonishing thing, a special. And they start it by saying, newsflash, newsflash, we don't see any dogs. They're nowhere to be found. We cannot see one in the street. They used to be in the parks. They used to be walking. There are no dogs. And some in some homes go, wait a minute. We figured this out. Wait a minute. You told us to tie up our dogs. That's why there are no dogs. How can you report in such a dramatic fashion that there are no dogs? And you might say, what kind of a parable is this for Kryon to give? Or an allegory, or a metaphor? Well, let me give you something real, something that happened. There's a news report, dear ones. It's a news report, a flash, a scary number has appeared. Your unemployment rate in this country is higher than the Great Depression. In huge numbers on the screen, over 14% or more It's the highest it ever was in this nation. Read between the lines. Therefore, you're doomed. And then there's somebody who says, wait a minute. Wait a minute. You told us to stay home. That's why nobody's working. You told us to stay home. Now you're giving us a report to frighten us, to scare us that nobody's working? Wait a minute. That's exactly what happened yesterday. It didn't say temporary unemployment, did it? It didn't say employment before recovery, did it? It did not. Therefore, even as you come out of this, they're trying to frighten you. And there is no dark energy here to frighten you. It's simply habit. This is what they do. It's a channel telling you to ignore these things because this is what they do. It's a channel that says things are not always as they seem. Oh, but it's more than that. I will give you something else that's only half being said. You need to hear it. If this were a world war, you would be looking at complete and total destruction of the infrastructure. There would be nothing left. All of the factories would be bombed. There'd be no factories to work at. The infrastructure of the hiring to the factories would also have gone away. All of the things that would be in place to create a product, all those who sell, all those who design, all those who do the marketing and the billboards and all those things, they'd all be gone. The companies would cease to exist. If you had a war, you'd be looking at a world that had died temporarily and the economies were gone completely, and you'd be starting anew. Dear ones, that is the news you're getting, especially in the economy, especially with jobs, especially, as though you'd had a war, as though the factories were gone. The truth is a hybrid of that. They're still there. There are those who are salesmen who are also like you, or perhaps you're one of them in your homes. The products that are needed in this planet, you're in your homes. And when there is a release, that particular engine of the economy will start again, perhaps in a lower way, in order to get up to speed after a surplus has been made for the ones and the products that are still there. But the factories are there. They're not bombed. The infrastructure is still there. It has not died. And yet, the news that you are being given and the projections that you've been giving is as though there had been a war. I want you to think about these things and the logics of these things. The economy will not come bouncing and racing back as though nothing had ever happened. That's not what we're saying. But we're saying it will come back and the jobs are there. And it may come back a little differently. It may come back a little more lean for a while until it then develops into something perhaps it should have been. But it will come back. The factories do not have to be rebuilt. Again, I will say this. There is no economic model for a virus or a pandemic. Don't let them tell you they know what's going to happen. They don't. The great push, the accelerator on all of this is the desire of all of you to go back to what you did. In buildings that have been waiting for you, in places that will welcome you back when the time is correct. All of you want to return and resume. Don't watch the media because they don't care about giving you hope. They just want to sell products. And this, dear ones, is something you would say, well, it shouldn't be in an esoteric channel. It shouldn't be about metaphysical things. I will tell you it's about real life today and fear and anxiety that you do not need to have or participate in. You don't need this now. You need hope. You need truth. And you need to see the way things really truly are. Be some of the ones who say, wait a minute, wait a minute. You told us to tie up the dogs. You can't give us a report that you don't see any dogs in the street anymore. The planet is starting to come out. It's going to burst at the seams of joy. There may even be parties before it's time, simply because people are tired of staying inside, not meeting each other, not having the ability to do as they always have done, to socialize in wonderful places with good food, and to meet each other on the street. Even the countries that do not have some of these privileges want to come out, at least to walk around in the parks and the beaches. And so that is and will be very soon. You stand on the cusp of the beginning of coming back from the reboot, and things will be different than you're told. I'm crying in love with humanity, and so it is. Greetings, dear ones. I'm Kryon of Magnetic Service. Dear ones, your souls that are eternal, that had no beginning, they just simply always were, difficult for you to understand, and will always be, these are your souls. That's you. That's your essence. That soul of yours plays many roles on this planet. In other words, you reincarnate. Spectacular because it's the plan that helps to advance this planet with a consciousness that you have free choice to use. That is the engine of conscious advancement, because your soul comes back as one who has been here and done this and has a chance then to advance past that, because it lays into your Akash like a school would be to advance the grades lifetime after lifetime. You retain what happened last time and work it out the next time. Some call it karma. It's more than that, dear ones. It's actually not that. The system of past lives gives you the ability to go through this school of earth and learn and advance, but more than that, to come closer to a truth that we have already given you, a basic truth that you are part of God, a basic truth that says that the entire plan is about elevating this consciousness of this planet to mastery. That's the engine. It has to be. If everyone simply came one time, you'd all still be in kindergarten. Now, some have said you still are. In that, I tell you, the cycles of time, some of them being very slow, would actually cooperate with that, for you have cycles of change that sometimes then cooperate to push you into a higher consciousness if you're ready. And one just did. And that's the 2012 shift. That's the reason for Kryon to even be here. Most of your planetary modern religions do not believe in reincarnation. In fact, if you talk to someone who is in one of those belief systems, they'll look at you like you're nuts. Can't be that way. They'll say, if it was that way, how could the doctrine that we believe actually work? Because you're born, you're tested, and then you're either punished or rewarded. That's one time. I will tell you something, dear ones. That is not a God system. That's not a creator system. That's a men's system. You come in, You have to be naughty or nice. Sounds like Santa Claus. And you either get a present or you get tortured. We told you how illogical and dysfunctional that system is, totally. It's not a loving system. Think about it. It's not from God. The system that is beautiful has you coming and returning. The first organized religion on this planet, in your time frame, that you can call something that belongs to your civilization, is Hinduism. And in that, the staple of Hinduism is reincarnation. This is just to give you a sample of this answer to a question: what was the first intuitive thoughts of humans back then, without a doctrine to think about, without rules? What did they come up with that they could grasp and work with together? And the system was love, compassion, and included past lives. Subsequent to that, there have been others also that include past lives. On the planet right now, there are billions who still believe that reincarnation is not just a possibility, but is the way it works. But I am talking to a culture and those cultures around this culture that often do not believe it. Spectacular it is, because this truth is actually the kernel, the seed, the engine, as I said, to an advanced planet, to coming back. Some have said, well, what about the indigenous? You know, I don't hear much about past lives of the indigenous. They do it differently, dear one. Listen to them talking about their ancestors. Why would they go to so much trouble to capture the wisdom of their ancestors, to pray to their ancestors, to go there almost every single time they go into any kind of a meditation or ceremony? And the answer is this: because they understand that they are their own ancestors. That part of that wisdom is translated through the earth, the dirt of the earth, right back to them. This is their form of understanding the cycle. Ask the indigenous about the cycles. They'll give you the same information I have. There is a grander plan, dear ones, and it all is part of coming back. There are so many things that I could give you, so many examples of the beauty of a returning human. In all of these things, I want you to know this. You, your soul, could hardly wait to get here. I will tell you something else, controversial to the max. You chose your parents. We have said this before, that there are so many of you right now going, you got that one wrong, Kryon. Others may have chosen their parents. I would never have chosen those. You did. You chose them for numbers of reasons. You didn't choose them so that you would have a test or you would have a troubling life. You chose them because you might be their teacher, old soul that you are. There are many old souls who choose young soul parents so that those parents might learn from you. And you might say, well, I'm not really sure my parents learned anything from me. You don't know what you don't know. Things go in and they settle. Souls learn differently than humans learn. There are systems afoot. Your consciousness of what you believe affects others in ways you don't even think they do. All part of this plan. My partner, he asked and answered a question. Both asking and answering, why do some have to die early? The answer is they don't have to. But they had an agreement. And if you look at it this way, that before they ever came in, The agreement was this, that if they achieve a high consciousness to that state at which they can, that some of them said, I'm going to leave early and come back and continue right away so this planet has a chance. A population of the future with wisdom. And so no matter what you do for them, it doesn't help. And as you stand perhaps at the ceremony in their memorial, with tears running down your face, there's still some wise ones among you that say, thank you for the plan, for they will affect this planet and I'm going to be there because I'm coming back too. Spectacular, true, beautiful. And that's who you are. Now you know why. I am in so much love with humanity for what you do for each other, for the universe, for this beautiful earth. Truly spectacular. And so it is.